Hey, church family, thank you so much for joining us today on this Wednesday at noon. I hope that you're doing well. We're continuing to journey through Holy Week. We are in John chapter 13, and we're going to be in verses 21 through 31 today. It says this: So after saying these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit, and he testified, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." And the disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he spoke. One of his disciples, whom Jesus loved, was reclining at the table at Jesus' side. So Simon Peter motioned him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So that disciple, leaning back against Jesus, said to him, "Lord, who is it?" And Jesus answered, "It is he to whom I will give this morsel of bread when I have dipped it." So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into him. And Jesus said to him, "What you are going to do, do it quickly." Now, no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the money bag, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the feast," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him." There are probably several angles and things we could talk about in this passage, but one of the things that I think stands out is the first part there in verse 21, that after saying these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit. Jesus was unsettled. He was stirred up. And we know that even after this moment, that even as Jesus prayed in the garden and prepared himself to go to the cross, that Jesus felt the weight of that. Jesus felt the weight of that moment. And but also right here in this moment, he feels the weight of Judas' own betrayal. And we have to remember that sometimes we look at Judas as the bad guy of the story. And it's pretty clear, as we find out here in a couple verses down, that Satan is the bad guy of the story. Judas was a guy that Jesus chose to be one of his 12 disciples. Judas was someone that was entrusted with ministry. Judas was someone that was entrusted with responsibility among the 12. And Jesus is troubled. He is saddened because he knows what Judas is going to do. It's important for us as we walk through this Holy Week time that we do remember Jesus' humanity in this moment. We believe as Christians, we believe that Jesus is fully God and he's fully man. And that fully man part is important as we walk through this week, to know that Jesus experienced fear, he experienced isolation, he experienced rejection. And not just rejection from the religious leaders and the Pharisees, but even those closest to him. Rejection and betrayal from Judas, rejection from Peter in denying him. Jesus experienced the gambit of human emotions during this Holy Week. But here's another thing that I think we should point out with Judas, is that Judas was close with Jesus. He walked with Jesus. He heard Jesus. I mean, so many times that we can be at these places in our Christian walk that if I just had maybe a better preachers or better teachers or a better this or a better that, maybe I would be closer in my walk with Christ. We look at a man like Judas, and Judas literally, physically was walking with Jesus himself. But we know, there's lots of different views or thoughts as to what led Judas to eventually decide to betray Jesus. But obviously, at some point in the course of those 3 years, something had transpired in Judas' own heart that made him available to be used by Satan in this moment. And so my prayer for us as believers as we walk through this Holy Week, that we would see Jesus' example as a warning to us to make sure that we guard our own hearts, that we don't get to a state of frustration, we don't get to a state of laziness or apathy. Maybe we don't get to a state that maybe we want to do things our own way, or that we become selfish in some way, or we allow sin in. Because for Judas, he was at a place that he was completely primed and ready to be used by Satan. May we guard our hearts during this Holy Week, but may we also too see Jesus' humanity and his grace and his mercy over us. We're praying for you. We hope you have a good week. We'll see you Sunday.